But we'll at least read through a chapter I've alluded to before that I really liked. It's meant a lot to me in the last month or two, Psalm 73. So we'll read through that, make some comments, and maybe read another chapter. But if you got any comments or anything, questions or things you want to talk about, please speak up because, yeah, we'll get going. All right, let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you so much for today, all that you've done for us, your many blessings. I pray that you would please be with the mom and dad, Pastor and Mrs. King, as they are in Mexico, getting some special treatments done. I pray that you would be with them, give them peace, comfort, encouragement during this time, and healing, Lord. Whatever your will is for them, we will trust you and love you no matter what. But we do ask that you would heal her, Lord, and work a miracle. In your precious name I pray. Amen. All right, Psalm 73. I mentioned it before in one of my lessons that I wanted to talk a little bit more about it. I've read it through it multiple times last few weeks, ever since David's lesson on why do the wicked prosper. That's been a topic that comes up a lot in my life. I've heard, it seems like every now and then people go through periods where they start to question, like, why are good people suffering and why are bad people just seeing like everything's going so great and wonderful? And to me, this is probably, there's many areas in the Bible that touch on that subject. And of course, you have a whole book of Job to go to, which, where's Raleigh, my sighing? Yesterday, as I was driving up here, I have listened to a podcast series, and every week they post a sermon, and there was one on the book of Job, one of the best messages I've ever heard on Job. It was powerful, very timely too. So maybe sometime I'll try and teach on that, but there wasn't enough time for it today. Yes.
Can you share that, to the...
I was joking with Joy. I'm like, I really could just push play and just let it, because it was phenomenal. One of the best. He hit some things I've never thought of that before. Little sneak peek if I ever do, or if you listen to it. But one of the coolest points he did is he talked about when God finally answered Job after all this suffering, and he's just left there, to deal with all the suffering. And then he's getting, hammered by his friends, and they're ridiculing him. And when finally God chooses to speak to him, it says he spoke out of a whirlwind. And I've never thought of that. I'm like, well, whirlwind's cool. God's trying to show his power and everything. But it's like a windstorm is what destroyed the house that his kids were in and killed his kids. He's like, so arguably the thing that hurt Job the most is what God chose to speak to him from. So he's like, when you're dealing with something awful, sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is what God chooses to speak to you from. I was like, whoa, like that's powerful to think about. But it was a very good message. It's called, What Will You Do When Your Day Comes? And he was basically saying that everyone is going to have a day like Job, some more severe than others, but there's going to be a day come for everyone when everything feels like it's crashing down. He's going to be like,
the podcast name?
Enjoying the journey. Enjoying the journey.
One thing we should think about is next Thursday. Play it.
Yeah.
Play it for everybody. How long is it? 45?
Something like that, an hour, 45, something.
I think we should do it. If it's as good, and usually, Pastor's got to approve.
It's,
No, well,
am I on camera? Maybe I should watch what I say.
So I think I'll vote that's what we should do.
We watch videos.
Yeah, it was really good. It was very powerful.
Right, so can I count on you to set up the speakers and whatever we got to do?
I've tried before. It doesn't work, but I could bring some portable speakers.
I got a portable speaker
Okay,
too.
yeah.
Have two that connect to each other, so you can have one in the front, one in the
Yeah, that might be best.
Let's plan that then.
It was really good. It's called What Will You Do When Your Day Comes, and it was very powerful. Am I that bad, Ron? You're already leaving? I'm sorry. But anyways, I thought about it, like maybe I could just stay up all night and try and convert it into a lesson, but I was quite dead yesterday. I do apologize. But I do want to read through this chapter because I do like this chapter a lot, and it does touch on that a lot. That's a subject that even my mom has struggled with. She's gone through periods in her life where she was down, and I remember her saying that. She's like, why does it seem like sometimes everything is just wonderful for people that are doing so wrong, and then other people seem like they're trying so hard to do God's will and everything goes wrong for them? So this is, I think, a really cool chapter because there's other places that talk about it. Psalm 37, which we might read that too. David touches a lot on that subject, but he's coming from, it felt more powerful, like, whereas this chapter feels more vulnerable. Asaph, this guy who I don't know if we know a whole lot about it. They think he was some guy in charge of music, in David's kingdom or whatever. But, a choir director, if you will, or something. But he seems quite vulnerable in a lot of these verses, as he's really, you can see him wrestling and struggling with this subject. Why do the wicked prosper? So let's start reading it. Please, if you got any comments or want to share anything, a personal experience, or even just ask a question, speak up. Otherwise, I'll make a few brief comments and we'll get done probably very quickly. I just want to read through this chapter that has spoke to me quite a bit. So Psalm 73, verse 1, a psalm of Asaph. Truly, God is good to Israel, even to such as are of a clean heart. A lot of us have been there where we know God's good and we'll acknowledge that God's good, but there's a but. He follows that with, he makes a statement, I know God's good. I know he's good, but as for me, my feet were almost gone, my steps had well nigh slipped. So he's setting it up. He's saying, I know God's good, but for me, my faith was slipping over the subject that he's about to talk about. I was slipping over this. For I was envious at the foolish. Also, if I don't catch you raising your hand, you can cough or speak up. For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. For there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm. They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. Plagued you could use for sickness or just persecution in general. Sometimes in life it just doesn't seem like they're being persecuted or they're suffering or they're dealing with sickness like other men are. Therefore, pride compasseth them about as a chain. Violence covereth them as a garment. Their eyes stand out with fatness. They have more than their heart could wish. It can be very, very disheartening and grievous sometimes when you see people doing so wrong, but it just seems like everything's going so right for them. They have more than their heart could even wish for. They are corrupt, and they speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak lofty. They set their mouth against the heavens, and their tongue walketh through the earth. Therefore his people return hinder, and waters of a full cup are wrung out to them. And they say, how doth God know? And is there knowledge in the Most High? These wicked people, they're questioning God. Is there even a God? And does he really know what's going on? Behold, these are the ungodly who prosper in the world. They increase in riches. Verily, this is a powerful verse here too, very sad, but he says, verily, I have cleansed my heart in vain and washed my hands in innocency. He's even questioning if, him being a Christian is the right thing. He's like, have I done this in vain? Like, would it have been better if I would have been like one of them? I would be prospering and doing as well off as all these. He's starting to even question it. Like, am I really better off being a Christian? Which is very sad and relatable to some of us. For all the day long have I been plagued and chastened every morning. Again, you can take that word plague as whatever, however you want, whether sickness or persecution or suffering. But he's like, I've been plagued all the day long and chastened every morning. If I say I will speak thus, behold, I should offend against the generation of thy children. When I thought to know this, it was too painful for me. So when he's considering all of this, he's like, when I tried to know this, it was too painful for even me to bear. And I think this is really cool. So he got to a point of brokenness over this. He's like, I can't even understand this. Yes.
What I see in there, 15, this is my thoughts. I wonder if he was worried about blowing his testimony, because if he's a teacher of music and I believe A7.
I don't know for sure, but that's what I've read is they think he was. Yeah.
He's got people looking up to him, just like we all have people looking up to us. And I think what he's saying in verse 16 is, when I thought to know this, it was too painful for me. So I think if we really realized the impact that we had on other people, that would kind of speak to us and say, I really need to do better because I got people looking up to me.
Juan.
So one time, there was somebody in my family who was a very strong person. And I remember one day he was saying that, he's like, you don't think that I don't believe in God? And I do, but I think it's more or less the fact that there's so many people that look up to him in a negative way that I think that it would hurt him more than he's already hurting now. That he would have to be something that he's not, and that's what he's scared, and that's what people are scared of. Because if you become a Christian, that means that your whole life is going to change, and you know that you can't change because you've already physically damaged yourself and everybody else around you.
You may not be able to change yourself, but if you yield yourself to God, you can let him he'll change you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they don't want to hear that they're a hypocrite. You know, how did you push us so far to get what you wanted, and now you want to change, and now we're ruined because of you.
Yeah, they can take it that way. If you were one way, you treated them one way wrongly, and then when you change, they could take that as hypocrisy, or they could take that as they could see a change in your life, like, wow, something is different about him since he became a Christian for the better, and that could be a great impact and a testimony to them.
To this day, there's people that, because I believe so much in God, that there's people that don't talk to me because of that reason, because of my testimony.
That's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's sad, but sometimes that's what happens. If they've rejected God, sorry, help me out, Samuel, where he told them that they have not rejected you, they've rejected me. Was that Samuel? I think that was Samuel. So yeah, it happens in life where people will reject God, and because you associate yourself with God, they'll inevitably reject you too.
There's even some people that I've seen that they lie. They say that they believe in God, but they don't. Just so that people won't, make them feel some type of way.
Good. All right, moving on. So he talks about how this was too painful for him to even bear. But then this verse 17 is pretty cool. It says, until I went unto the sanctuary of God, then understood I their end. So however you want to relate that to yourself, whether that's going to church, whether that's just dwelling with God, building an altar in your heart to dwell with God and meditate with him. But he says, when he went unto the sanctuary of God, then understood I their end. Surely thou didst set them in slippery places. Thou castest them down unto destruction. How are they brought unto desolation as in a moment? They are utterly consumed with terrors. As a dream when one awaketh, so, O Lord, when thou awakest, thou shalt despise their image. Thus my heart was grieved, and I was pricked in my reins. So, not that we should wish for any of this to happen to these wicked people, but he's just coming to the realization. He's like, they're in a slippery place, and like any moment their destruction's going to come. Where we have that solid hope and that foundation in God. So that's the difference. Like that. Why does it seem like the wicked is suffering and the people? It's like we have peace and hope, knowing all things are going to turn out right. Eventually, God will make everything right. He's going to win in the end. And they are in a slippery place. They are the ones without hope, without that firm foundation, and their destruction can come at any moment. Not that we should wish for it, but he's just realizing that is the truth. That is what's going on. It's not like they're just everything's great and it's going to be wonderful for them and we're just going to be suffering and everything. When the end comes, we will come out, he will be victorious. and will be with him. Thus was my heart grieved, and I was pricked in my reins. So foolish was I. So when this is all dawning on him, he's realizing how foolish he was for being so, even thinking that way and questioning God. So foolish was I and arrogant, ignorant. I was as a beast before thee. Nevertheless, I am continually with thee. Thou hast holden me by my right hand. Thou shalt guide me with thy counsel, and afterward receive me to glory. Whom have I in heaven but thee? And there is none upon earth that I desire besides thee. My flesh and my heart faileth, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. For lo, they that are far from thee shall perish. Thou hast destroyed all them that go a whoring from thee. But, and I like this when you compare it with the verse that when he was questioning if it was even good that, he's like, is it good that I've cleansed my heart? Have I done it all in vain? Do I live this life for God in vain? You pair that then when he was down and oppressed with this, he says, but it is good for me. So he has come to that realization. Yes, it is good. It is good for me to draw near to God. I have put my trust in the Lord God, that I may declare all thy works. So that's mainly it. David, you missed part of it, but this was that chapter that I had talked about when right after your lesson about why the wicked prosper. And then I think it was like that day or the very next day I read this chapter, and I was blown away just how detailed it gets into someone specific who's struggling with that subject. He goes through the brokenness at the beginning of like, why is the wicked prospering so much? They're rich, they're fat, they have everything that they want. It says that they have nothing, there's nothing that they desire. They just have everything they want. And then he's talking about himself, and he's like, I'm plagued, every day in the morning I'm being chased, and he's just really struggling with this to the point where he's even his faith is slipping. And you can read it sometime on your own, but in the beginning he's even talking about his feet are slipping. Like he's struggling so much just to understand this question: why do the wicked prosper? Why do the righteous suffer? He's struggling with it so much that he's even questioning his faith, questioning if it was even good for him to be a Christian. And then he comes to that realization that they will be judged for what they do in the end. And it's not something we should wish for, but it's just the reality of the situation. They're in a slippery place, and we have a firm foundation in God. Any comments or questions?
Trials and tribulations and the sufferings can't even compare to how good heaven's going to be. But you say the same about the wicked. As pleasurable as your life might be, it's not going to compare to what eternity's going to look like for them. And I like that. That's such a good point. Yeah, I would think of different people like LeBron James or different stuff. Like there's the protests in Hong Kong and China and all that stuff, and LeBron James, like he's there, we're oppressed here, the African Americans here were so oppressed, and then they're asking about the people in China, and he's like, whoa, that's nothing, you know what you're talking about. I was saying, like, he's such a, filthy rich person, but he couldn't say anything against China because he makes so much money from China. That's a lot of other people, and I'm like, I wouldn't want to have his kind of money if that's what it meant, that I could speak the truth about something. And there's so many people, it's like, you think they have, they got what they want. But I'm like, they're not free. They're chained down to their money, and like it's just not. So a lot of times the wicked, they have problems and stuff that we don't see. Yeah, and you're like, I wouldn't want that. That's not a life I would want. I'd rather work a 9-to-5 job my whole life rather than having to be chained down and can't speak up the truth.
Yeah, a pastor once said, which I don't think super highly of this certain pastor who will remain nameless. But he did make a good comment once. He's like, for Christians, this life on earth is our hell. This is the worst it will, and excuse the language, but this is the worst it's going to be for us because we got a much better place we're going to. But for unsaved people, this is their heaven because this is the best it's going to be for them, and they're going to a much worse place. So we should keep that in mind. Like, we shouldn't wish evil upon them and want them to be destroyed. We should try our best. Ultimately, that's up to God. how he chooses to judge them. But ultimately, like, they're going to a much worse place. This is the best they're going to have it. So it would behoove us to do our best to help lead and guide people to Christ and let God use us to do that, David.
I'm kind of glad this topic got brought up. I think it was a movie quote. I have no idea what movie it was, but it was good. I didn't know if the topic would be brought up that I could mention it. But it was pretty much someone saying sometimes the devil, the worst thing he can do is, in a way, bless, but give you everything you want, give you prosperity, good health, and riches here on earth, so you don't have any reason to turn to God.
That's
so then
good.
you're trapped in a jail cell with the door open the whole time. You can always leave, but one day it's going to shut and lock, and you're stuck.
Yeah, Scott Pauley, who I pretty much all my Sunday school lessons have lately, it seems like, have come from. No, I don't have my phone vibrated. Sorry. He had preached a message a while ago about blessings and cursings, and he had that was one of his main points, was that all blessings have the potential to become curses in your life if not yielded to God. All blessings, like no matter how good it is, if you don't yield that and give it to God, it has a high potential to become a curse and actually deter you in your life and lead you astray farther from God.
What about rich Christians?
There's no such thing. If you
I remember when Doug Beal first started coming here, and the whole courting stage, and I remember having a couple of conversations, and maybe it's just me, but it seemed like he was bragging about how much money he had in his house, and I went to his house, and it was a beautiful home, and it seemed, and I asked myself, I'm like, why? Because to me he seemed arrogant. I mean, that's just my initial impression, and it's like, well, why does he have all this stuff? Why does he get to have all these riches, And I was jealous, and I'm like, and that was a sin of mine, and I had to repent and confess that. But yeah, it just seems, and if we look out in the world, there's a lot of, quote unquote Christians that they got a ton of money, and I'm going to talk a little bit later today about one of them. So I'm glad this topic came up. So.
Yeah. Oh, good point. Very good point.
On rich Christians, I think we all could think of that one person that's like, wow, they're that way, they're arrogant and prideful. That is their struggle, their blessing, but it's definitely their curse, and they're not Christ-like with it. But then I know of a few people that are ridiculously wealthy, but you wouldn't know it because they are Christ-like, and they don't boast upon their wealth. And God has blessed them and continues to bless them and continues to bless them and give them because they did it. I know.
Can you introduce me later?
Maybe, but so I think there are wealthy people that have taken that gift, but also that burden of wealth, because it is, because it's a something that can totally take over you, like any sin problem that we might have. But they appropriately have a relationship with God to utilize that. So I would say that there are two sides to that idea.
That was a joke, by the way. There are wealthy Christians, I know. Tien.
Just whether on money, I remember watching a quick video where they're talking to different people that won the lottery. Yeah, all of them, their lives were just horrible. Most of them became alcoholics. But there were one certain family members that ended up killing them because they were mad that they didn't get any of the money. I mean, all these people, and some of them was like, 5 million or 20 million or something, but yeah, showing all these people, their lives are just horrible. And we think money is the answer, to make us happy, but that's just funny. All these people, their lives just became, they said most all of them said their lives were better before they got the money.
Really?
Whoa. So sometimes, we think the wicked is prospering, but a lot of times it's not the case. They have their own wealthy people. We think that, it's easy for them, but there are just a different set of problems that they have that we probably don't have to deal with. But that is those.
David.
Every time this topic comes up, I just think of the verse, every good thing comes from Lord. But it is interesting how it kind of is a reflection of the fact that we're in a sin cursed body. Is you ask any Christian in church or on the street, like, you know, the love of money is what? You know, it's the root of all evil. And we can easily tell ourselves that, you know, we don't need money to serve God. We don't need money to be happy. And then we see, you know, people in the world that we know, we can see aren't living right. And they have all this money. And why did they get that? It's like,
Yeah.
when did that become the good thing? You know, riches and fame. And you know, I said every good thing comes from the Lord. It's like, if they didn't get that from the Lord, it ain't a good thing. You don't want it. So.
What do they say? Comparing.
Oh,
Comparison is the thief of joy. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, I like that saying. Comparison is the thief of joy. Andy?
Another good one is it's better to be crying in a Ferrari than laughing on a bicycle.
I don't really have any more. If we could either wrap it up, or I did a parallel passage that goes along with that one is Psalms 37. This is David talking, and it's very encouraging. There's lots of encouragement to glean from this chapter. We could read through it real quick, or we could call it quits, or if you guys have any more comments, it's up to you. Yeah, all right. Psalm 37, I read this morning. It was very encouraging, so I thought I would pair it along with. It's also David talking about this subject, about the wicked and the righteous. So I read the entire other chapter. Maybe I'll start throwing some out at you guys. Mike, you're busy with the sermon. I'll leave it. David, do you want to start us off and maybe read like the first 7 verses or something?
Psalm 34?
7, sorry. Psalm 37. And then the first 7, I guess, verses, and we'll switch it up.
Fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity. For they shall soon be cut down like the grass, and wither as the green herb. Trust in the Lord, and do good, so shalt thou dwell in the land, and verily thou shalt be fed. Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thine heart. Commit thy way unto the Lord, trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. And he shall bring forth thy righteousness as the light, and thy judgment as the noonday. Rest in the Lord, and wait patiently for him. Fret not thyself because of him who prospereth in his way, because of the man who bringeth wicked devices to pass.
I like that. Rest in the Lord and wait patiently for him, and fret not because of him who prospereth in his way. So ultimately, we just have to leave it to God. We can argue and we can fret and worry about it all our lives. Why he's doing so wrong right now? Why is he doing better than me? And we can fret about it all we want, but ultimately we just got to leave it to God. Rest in him, wait patiently. And again, the thing that I liked most about the previous passage we read was just the comparison of the two things. He talks about them; they're in a slippery place, and whereas we have a firm foundation, a firm footing, a place where we can rest easy, knowing we're secure in God. One thing I've been thinking so much lately about is just the word hope. That's one of the most well, I can't make that statement, but for me, it's one of the greatest gifts that God. I mean, I know he died on the cross, and he paid for our salvation. He paid for our sin, that is the greatest gift that anyone the world has ever seen. But also one of the greatest things God has given us is hope. I think, because we don't have to live a life worried and scared, and what's going to happen. What's going to happen when we die? Or am I going to get reincarnated as a butterfly or something like that? Or is there going to be nothing? Or we don't have that worry of not knowing. We have hope in God. And of course, the word hope in the Bible isn't, like modern day word hope is wish. I hope that would happen. But the Bible word hope is is a more of a trust of faith. We have hope in God. We know he's our salvation, and we know everything will turn out all right. So that's just what I've been thinking a lot lately, is just that is one of the coolest and greatest gifts that God has given us, is just hope. David.
Dare I say, Jesus dying on the cross is the greatest hope.
Yeah. And you can just connect those two. We got a few minutes. We can keep reading. Andy, you want to pick up where you left off, verse 8?
It says, cease from, stop at 8 or 7, right?
Yes.
Cease from anger and forsake wrath. Fret not yourselves in any wise to do evil, for evildoers shall be cut off. But those that wait upon the Lord, they shall inherit the earth. For yet a little while, and the wicked shall not be, yea, they shall diligently consider his place, and it shall not be. But the meek shall inherit the earth, and shall delight themselves in the abundance of peace. The wicked plotteth against the just, and gnasheth upon him with his teeth. The Lord shall laugh at him, for he seeth that his day is coming. The wicked have drawn out the sword, and have bent their bow, to cast down the poor and needy, and to slay such as be of upright conversation.
Tian, you want to take over?
Their sword shall enter into their own heart, and their bow shall be broken. A little that a righteous man hath is better than the riches of many wicked. The arms of the wicked shall be broken, but the Lord upholdeth the righteous. The Lord knoweth the days of the upright, and their inheritance shall be forever. They shall not be ashamed in the evil time, and in the days of famine they shall be satisfied. But the wicked shall perish, and the enemies of the Lord shall be as the fat of lambs. They shall consume into smoke. Shall they consume away. The wicked borroweth and payeth not again, but the righteous showeth mercy and giveth.
It's easy to say, but verse 16, a little that a righteous man hath is better than the riches of many wicked. That can be an easy verse to read and then hard to live sometimes when you see people doing better off. But ultimately, we do have to remember, like, our life is such a blink in the eye of eternity. And so whether we're poor or rich, or we're sickly, or we have good health, or we're weak or strong, no matter what we've been given to live through this life with, it's just a blink in the eye of all eternity. And it's not really going to mean much, when we're in heaven for 1,000,000 years. We're not going to look back like, man, I wish I would have had a little bit more money way back then. So,
I just want to jump back to verse 13. I love that verse. The Lord shall laugh at him. I just think, we all know God's got a sense of humor, but when I think of this, I think of, like, a couple weeks ago, we got it's called the Peacock House, where we put our baby chicks in, and after we move them from our brooding area and they get a little bigger, we put them in that. So it used to be a tree house. But I went in there and there was a bunch of hornets nest up there.
Oof.
And I just laughed at them. I'm like, you're so stupid. You actually think this is a good place. Now you're about to die. You idiot, stupid bees. And so I think that kind of relates to what God must think. You're stupid people. Really? This is what you're going to do? And you morons.
and real quick, I did want to mention, like, I always backtrack real quick, because I know we shouldn't hate wicked, we shouldn't hate people and be like, not even attempt to try and, witness to them and help show the light of Jesus. But then you read some of these passages and, like, man, he sounds really harsh. Like, some of these guys, like, they're just laying into the wicked. But it is important for us to have love. And then I think a good way to look at it is not to single people out and hate them, but rather just hate wickedness in general. There's a lot of
people then.
Yeah, no, we're not starting that conversation again.
I think it could be a really strong, like, hear this. I'm telling you this because I'm an older man or I'm an experienced person. I'm telling you people and the generations that are going to read this later that you can apply this to the person that you feel is like, oh, they have riches, like, this is so terrible. And you can realize, you can be like, oh, their end is coming and this is the truth and it's been said for 4,000 years and it's been proven and shown. So apply that to the person or the group or the whatever that you're going, oh, this is a difficulty for me. Look, this is their end. Understand it. Okay, we're gonna be super strong and strict. It's like when you have a pastor or father, someone's like, I have this strong standard and strong whatever because I have experience, and that's why I'm doing this because I know. And I know it's good for you, 5-year-old, 10-year-old, 15-year-old, whatever. You don't know this yet, but I'm gonna tell you to be stronger than maybe even the standard needs to be, or the state needs to be, to show you this is a truth. It's been proven.
Yeah, that's a good point. For younger generations to see the harshness that is going to be dealt with wicked people and people who choose to be wicked. That's a good point. Do you want to take over in 22 and keep reading?
Verse 22.
Yes, sir. To 28, I guess.
For such as be blessed of him shall inherit the earth, and they that be cursed of him shall be cut off. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his way. Though he fall, he shall not be utterly cast down. The Lord upholdeth him with his hand. I have been young, and now am old. Yet have I not seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. He is ever merciful, and lendeth, and his seed is blessed. Depart from evil, and do good, and dwell forevermore. For the Lord loveth judgment, and forsaketh not his saints. They are preserved forever, but the seed of the wicked shall be cut off.
That verse 23, the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his way. That's I had a call with my mom a few weeks ago, and we were talking with we were talking about people who choose to get bitter and angry at God when things don't go their way, or things are quite awful, and they just start to get angry at God. But one thing we were talking about is, who are we to even think we deserve better? I mean, God's God. He's the creator of the universe, and we are lowly nothings, in the grand and all of the universe. Like, what are we to shake our fist at God and be like, we deserve better, or you shouldn't have allowed that to happen? It's like, ultimately, like, he's God. Like, we have no right to demand of him that we deserve anything better. The fact that anything good happens to us at all is a marvel, that he cares enough about us to let anything good happen to us. So here, it says that, the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his way. Ultimately, that should be the goal. Whether we're suffering, whether we're sick, whether we're hurting, no matter what we're going through, we're not to get angry and bitter at God and say we deserve better than this. Ultimately, we should just be living our lives that delights him and that brings him glory and honor. And whether we live through an awful life or whether we live through an easy, comforting life, that's our goal, is to bring God glory and hopefully he'll delight in our life. Do you want to take over? Yeah, where he left off, 29.
The righteous shall inherit the land and dwell therein forever. The mouth of the righteous speaketh wisdom, and his tongue talketh of judgment. The law of his God is his heart. None of his steps shall slide. The wicked watcheth the righteous, and seeketh to slay him. The Lord will not leave him in his hand, nor condemn him when he is judged. Wait on the Lord, and keep his way, and he shall exalt thee to inherit the land. And when the wicked are cut off, thou shalt see it. I have seen the wicked in great power, and spreading himself like a green bay tree.
Green Bay. It's interesting you say thou shalt see it. So, I mean, not that I feel like we necessarily deserve to see the wicked. I mean, whatever God chooses to do with them, that's ultimately up to him. But, at least he's saying, you'll see it when it happens, in his time. I'll take over and we'll finish up quick and be done. Yet he passed away, and lo, he was not. Yea, I sought him, but he could not be found. Mark the perfect man, and behold the upright, for the Lord of that man is peace. That's pretty awesome. But the transgressors shall be destroyed together. The end of the wicked shall be cut off. But the salvation of the righteous is of the Lord. He is their strength in the time of trouble. And the Lord shall help them and shall deliver them from the wicked, and save them because they trust in him. Very encouraging chapter. Like I said, I read that this morning. I thought it would go good with the other chapter in Psalms that we read. I like how it says, mark the perfect man. Like, point him out. Be like, that's the man I want to follow. That's the man I'm going to, try and let influence my life, as opposed to a wicked man or anything. And then it says the end of that man is peace. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I found that interesting. I've had people say before about like, well, we're not supposed to follow men. We should only be focusing on God. And I always thought of that verse in the New Testament. They talk about, or when Paul says, follow me as I follow Christ. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing to mark godly men and be like, you know what, I'm gonna kind of follow their example as long as that man is following Christ. But I just think that verse goes along perfectly with that, where he says to mark them and uphold them.
That's a good verse to teach your kids, especially your young boys. Be like, find good men and mark them. Be like, hey, I'm.
Them, and then also for those who are going to be parents and those who are parents already, but the challenge for yourself to be like, make sure like I'm going to be that man.
Yeah.
That you can look at, like he is like Christ.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Be that man that someone younger can mark you and be like, I'm gonna try and let him influence and help me in my life.
Yeah, it's huge when you're reading the Bible and you're reading and you're going like, that person in my life is like the same as this. Therefore, I can trust that person. That's huge. I mean, for any young person or young man, being like.
And ultimately, like Andy said, we're not supposed to just blindly follow someone and be like, okay, we do need to have our own personal walk with Christ and discernment. But I don't, like he said, I don't think it's anything wrong with finding godly influences that can help support and be there for you.
But you gotta be careful. Don't put him on that pedestal. For many years, Tim Lee was my hero, and then I found out some things about him at Liberty University that, I still love him. He's a great preacher, but, he came down off of that pedestal I put him on. So.
And if you put them too high, then when they inevitably fall, as we are all, fallible, that could damage your faith then. So we have to be careful about that. So, and I do apologize. It's not much of a men's class. Took over for Casey. Obviously, Casey couldn't teach his men class today because he was helping mom and dad. I don't know if everyone's heard, but it is going very well. Casey said the facility is excellent. Doing very, very well. So, all right. That's it. I guess you guys are dismissed.